I love it when I can take things here from the farm and put them to good use, delicious use in this case. I want to show you how I make Coq Au Vin, a classic French recipe that uses, well, a tough old bird. The roosters often would get old and tough, and there was always an interest in how one could prepare one of these, and Coq Au Vin is a classic. Now what I've done is I've taken a 7.5 pound bird and broken it down. And this took some doing, I'll tell you. I use any sort of tool I can, even my garden pruners, to break the bird into 8 pieces. And just look at the color of the flesh. This is the white meat. Look at that breast. This thigh is the dark meat there, you see. This is what a heritage bird looks like. Now, these birds are built stronger than what you would find in the grocery store today. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to break it down, and we're going to do this in a number of ways. We're going to brown the chicken before it goes into the slow cooker, and then we're going to cook it for a long time. And it's so delicious and so tender. And this recipe I break down in 2 parts. First is the meat part. What I've done here is I've salted and peppered the chicken. I have half of it that has been skinned and half of it with the skin still on, because I love the flavor of chicken skin and how it makes the Coq Au Vin taste. Then I'm going to take this bacon and I'm going to fry it, and then we're going to brown the chicken. That's the meat portion. Then we're going to move to the vegetable side, and then we're going to assemble it all and put it in the slow cooker. And it'll be done. It's really quite simple, but it does take a little time. In a 12-inch non-stick skillet, cook 5 strips of bacon that have been cut into small pieces over medium heat until they're brown. Transfer the bacon to paper towels and drain. Next, you'll want to add the chicken into the hot skillet. 2 batches may be necessary, and brown over medium-high heat for approximately 10 minutes. All right, now with the chicken complete, it's time to prepare the vegetables. And what we use here are celery, onions, carrots, garlic, mushrooms, and some of these little onions. These are some we had drying up in one of the sheds in the garden, so I wanted to put these to use. Some recipes call for little pearl onions, but these were so small and beautiful and homegrown that I wanted to use them in the dish today. Roughly chop 3 small carrots, 2 stalks of celery, 16 large button mushrooms, 6 cloves of garlic, and 2 medium onions. Now you want to place these in the bottom of a large slow cooker. Then add your 8 pieces of chicken with about 16 whole small yellow onions. And then just place that bacon over the top. Then use a bottle of dry red wine to deglaze the pan. This is the skillet that you use. Then add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 2 dry bay leaves, and 9 teaspoons of fresh thyme. Then you want to heat to boiling, stirring to dissolve the tomato paste. This will take a few minutes. All right, with the glaze ready, let's go ahead and pour it over the bird here. Oh, that smells so good. And then we simply top it off with chicken broth. I'm going to bring it right up to the top. The amount you use will depend on the size of the bird you used as well as the size of the container. Now I'll cook this for 8 hours on low, and the results, well, mouth-watering. It's a great way to use a mean old rooster. You know, some of the best things to eat can be found by going underground. What I mean by that are some of these delicious root vegetables, like this garlic, onion, but this dish is all about radishes. I love radishes. We grow lots of them in the fall and in the early spring here, and this recipe is perfect for it. This is a radish top pasta. Now the reason it's called radish top is you actually use the greens of the radish to go in this pasta dish. Now the pasta, I've already started over here. I've got 15 ounces of penne pasta in salt water over here. I'm bringing it up to a boil, and then here I'm going to put a half a cup of pine nuts in here, heating the skillet up, and we're just going to toast these brown. I'm going to go ahead and get the pine nuts and the pasta done, and then we'll jump back into preparing the radishes. Now to toast pine nuts like this, you just want to put them on medium heat in a dry skillet. I'm doing here, and you just want to move them around very quickly because they will burn. You can see they're already getting dark on one side. This is really a great way to flavor them. There's natural oil in these pine nuts, and you can see they cook very rapidly. Roasting them just changes the flavor slightly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and dump them out so they can cool off. So that part's done. Pretty easy, huh? Turn off the stove. Our pasta's looking good over there. Now let's jump back to the radishes. Let me show you what I'm doing here. I want to go through all the ingredients so you'll get an idea of what goes into this dish and how really fresh and delicious it's going to be. I have 25 radishes here. You can use any type of radish you would like. This is one I think called Ruby Globe. And what we're going to do is slice these very thinly. I have a medium-sized yellow onion that I've chopped. I took the tops off of the radish. Here, these tender tops. They really are delicious. And I've chopped those up here. I have 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese that I've just grated from a block of Parmesan. And then I have 1/2 cup of curly parsley. Now we probably would have used flat leaf Italian parsley here, but I had a lot of curly in the garden that I wanted to use, so I'm putting it to work. All right, now let's get started sauteing these onions. I'm gonna put the heat back on here. Using the same skillet, I'm gonna put about 3 tablespoons of olive oil here on sort of a low to medium heat. And I'm going to take my onions. I just want to saute these until they're clear. Olive oil and onions. My mouth's watering. Now while these onions finish up, I think the pasta is just about ready. So I'm going to grab the pasta and I'm going to drain off the water. Piping hot. Take it out of the hot water there, and I'm just going to rinse that. And I'm just going to let the water drain off while we finish this dish. All right, so the next thing we want to do is check on our onions. They're looking really good. It's time to add these radishes. Now just look how thinly these are sliced. I'm going to let these cook for just a few minutes, about half the length of time the onions have cooked. Just look how beautiful this is. Gosh, that color is just amazing. Now you may be thinking, radishes, oh, you know, I like them on a salad occasionally. I've never had them like this, not sure about it. You need to give this a try. You're gonna love it. Now while these saute, I'm gonna jump back over here and finish up chopping up these tops of the radish because that goes in next. So I just like to tear them. They're very tender. And you can buy radishes already topped, or you can buy them with these lovely greens. Then why not? Because they're edible and they add so much, particularly to this dish. You can use these greens in salads in lots of different ways. You can see here how I've just slightly gently torn the leaves. A few more in here. Tender stems as well. Now when I started, I made sure that I washed the tops of the radishes and the radishes themselves, and then I damp dried them because I didn't want any extra moisture in this pasta, all right? Now in just a moment, we're gonna take these tops, we're gonna put those over there in our saute, and we're gonna add these 2 other ingredients. We'll be really close to finishing. Now this is getting really close. You don't wanna overcook these radishes. I like a little bit of bite there, all right? So, got that. I've got this garlic now. That's 1 clove of garlic that I crushed and chopped into lots of little pieces. Add that. Leave it for just a moment. Get that evenly distributed through the entire pan here. So here we've got all 3 of our underground friends sauteed together. Radishes, onions, and garlic. Nice combination. Not only do they look beautiful in the garden, they look beautiful right here in this skillet. Okay, now these pine nuts have cooled off. I'm going to add those here. They really add a nice texture and a little bit of crunch to this. Stir that around. And now I'm going to grab these tops, the secret weapon here. I'm just going to cook these until they wilt. And I'm going to go ahead and add that parsley as well. Make sure that's evenly distributed. So as you know, when you throw greens in a hot skillet like this, it only takes a minute for them to wilt. While that's heating up, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab the pasta and make sure that it's drained. So now I'm ready to take it off the heat. Now here's the bowl I want to serve this in. So I'm going to take the pasta, pour it into the bowl first. Then I'm going to take all of these greens now and add to the pasta. Isn't that beautiful? Then all this gets blended together. All right, now I'm ready to add my Parmesan. Love this stuff. 1/3 of a cup, may not be enough, but use your own judgment. I'm gonna fold all this together. I like lots of cracked black pepper. Add some salt, you'll wanna salt it. And it's ready to serve. Just look at that. Isn't it beautiful? I wish you could smell it. Give this a try. And who'd ever thought radishes and the tops? Hey, this is something else.
I'm going to be making an asparagus salad with fried sage, and this is really one of my favorite dishes to do when asparagus is in season. It's great because you can either roast or grill the asparagus, and you can serve it warm or room temperature, but it just makes a beautiful presentation on a buffet table. And I start with asparagus. This is sort of a medium-sized asparagus. If it's very fat, I'll peel it, but this seems to be just right for roasting today. And I'm going to cut the bottom quarter of the spears off. Some people like to break them off, but I find it's just a lot easier to take the whole bunch and cut the bottom off. I'm going to be putting it on a roasting pan or a baking sheet. And I'm going to put a little bit of olive oil on it. So some extra virgin olive oil and just a little bit of salt. So just pour that right over. A little bit of kosher salt. And then some chopped sage, and I'll show you what the sage looks like when I prepare it for frying. But I've got some chopped up there, and then I'll just take my tongs and toss it up. I just want to coat all the spears a little bit with the oil, and we'll be set to go. So I can either put this on a grill, which is really delicious because it takes on that extra kind of smoky grilled flavor, or I can just put it in a hot oven. So I can put it in a 450-degree oven. Takes about 5 minutes. Now you can tell when the asparagus is done if you just pick up one of the spears, and when it's limp and it bends a little bit, then it's cooked enough. Next thing I'm going to do is fry the sage, which is kind of the fun part. And so I've got some oil that's heated to about 300 degrees, and it's just nice canola oil. I've got that ready, and then I've got my sage here, and this is sage that we just harvested from the garden, and it's this variety of sage is called garden sage, which is just like the old-fashioned sage. And this kind of sage blooms in the spring, and the flowers are some of my favorite edible flowers. They have this sweet flavor and a little bit like the sage leaf, but just a beautiful garnish. We don't have any today, but you can see what the leaves look like. They're much thinner than some of the other varieties, and that's what I like about the garden sage also. Some of the other varieties have very thick, felty leaves, but I really like the light, thin leaves of the garden sage, and it's really a nice one to fry. So I'm just taking the leaves off just like that, and I leave a little bit of stem at the bottom. It doesn't really matter. I've got about 30 leaves here, and that's enough for the salad. And to fry the sage, you just make sure that the leaves are dry. So if I washed it earlier, I want to pat them off with paper towels. And then I'm just going to put them all at once into this oil. It's going to make a bit of a noise, but it won't splatter. So there they go. And really, you just want to fry them until they stop making noise, and that's how you know when they're done. And they're going to crisp up, and they get beautiful and translucent. And once you fry the sage, like if you try to nibble on a raw sage leaf, it's a little bit astringent and not that great on your tongue, but once they're fried, they get kind of crisp and nutty and light. They're a beautiful garnish. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on them. All right, and the next thing I'm going to do is to prepare the dressing. Get this hot oil out of the way. All right, and so I've got a nice big bowl to toss the salad in. I've got about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. I've got about a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then I'm going to use the zest of about a 1/2 lemon. So I'll just use this plain here, and I like to use these sort of upside down and rub the plain over the lemon instead of the other way around. And that goes in there. I'm just going to whisk it up. And then I'm just going to toss the asparagus in with that. So get nice and coated. And so if you grill or roast it, you can just let the asparagus sit at room temperature, and then right before you serve it, you can go ahead and put it in the dressing. Just toss that up, and then I've got a platter to put it out on. And oval platters work really nicely with the sprigs. You can just arrange it out like that. Kind of fan it out a little bit. There we go. And the next thing I'm going to do is shave some Parmesan Reggiano on. And you want to use a really nice high quality Parmesan cheese. You just take the block in your hand, and I'm just using a peeler. I really like these horizontal peelers. And you can just make shavings of it right over the top. And nice long shavings. And if they're too big, you can kind of just break them up a little bit. And so you've got the Parmesan cheese and then this beautiful fried sage. And the combination of the lemon, the sage, and the Parmesan cheese just works really nicely with this. And there you are, that's ready for the buffet.